How you do, friends? Welcome to this video. Today we're going to do another video on Andres Segovia, and I'm going to follow the format that I use for other videos. I call these the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm going to talk about three things that are good about Segovia, three things that could be bad about Segovia, and then when those three bad things can get ugly. So we're going to talk about that. And first, I wanted to real quickly say thank you to everybody that commented on my Andres Segovia video. About 10 months ago, I learned a lot from all the comments about different players, and people have mentioned Jovet, Barrios, and so I'm very grateful for all the comments and all the likes and all the views that I've been getting. Thank you for that. So let's start with this video. Three things that are good about Segovia. And like I said, I learned a lot from the comments, so I'm gonna use that knowledge and focus on three good things about Segovia. What is one of the first thing that I want to mention? Well, Segovia had a long career. He played for about 78 years. So he concertized for about 78 years. And that's a long time. So this is not just a person that got old and lived longer. He had a drive of performing. Other performers, retire and they don't want to perform anymore, things of that nature. And Segovia continued to play into his 90s. Okay? So that's the first thing I want to mention. The next thing is Segovia helped expand the repertoire of the guitar by collaborating with composers like Joaquin Rodrigo, Federico Torroba, Federico Mampu. Villalobos wrote pieces for Segovia. Also, Manuel Ponce wrote for Segovia. And I've been reading that Segovia was very involved. And then he knew what he wanted when he was asking composers to write for him. He was asking composers to write in a neoclassical style. A neo-romantic style. Okay? And then the last thing I want to mention about Segovia, the last good thing, is that Segovia had a definite style. A lot of people criticize that now, but Segovia had a sound, he had a touch. The Segovia style used a lot of different colors of the guitar, and he used a lot of dynamics. He had unique ways of phrasing. He had a very, like I mentioned, a big musical personality that I know a lot of accomplished players or that I know about, and they love Segovia. And some people that I also know personally that love Segovia, and so even they put aside some of the things that folks criticize. And just love Segovia's tone and listen to Segovia on a regular basis. Now let's go into the three bad things. And again, I'm trying to be careful here, not because somebody doesn't like what Segovia did or said, just kind of try to completely cancel him and try to erase his name from the history, and so I'm trying to be careful not to do that myself. Okay, the first thing that I think was bad about Segovia is, Segovia was trying to bring the guitar to the concert stage. So therefore, I have a quote here. It says, "While widely recognized for his immense contribution to elevating the classical guitar to the concert stage, some sources suggest that Segovia helped views that could be interpreted as elitist." And I can relate to that. I heard Segovia mentioning one of the movies that I have about him, that he rescued a guitar from the noisy hands of the flamenco players, and he said the guitar's in a crisis, and I'm the person that's gonna rescue the guitar, and so when he says things like that, of course he's sounding kind of like arrogant, very elitist in his comments. He considered the music, the music that he commissioned, the music he played, he transcribed music from Bach. He considered that music of culture, music of a classical tradition. So yeah, that could be considered elitist for sure. And then the next thing, the second thing on the bad section is that Segovia followed the sort of maestro apprentice way of teaching. That was his approach. So in his master classes, he was very dogmatic, and he demanded people do certain things, and basically with that approach is the student has no input. It's a one-way top-down approach, and that's the approach Segovia followed, and that's not a very nurturing approach. So therefore, he's been criticized for that, for doing that. And then the third thing that I think is bad about Segovia is, at some point, he was so driven and he wanted to bring the guitar to the concert stage that it was known that he said he was criticized for not. John Williams said that Segovia was very dismissive of music that didn't consider to have the correct classical origin. So he was basically dismissive of popular music and South American music, folk music, So Segovia didn't think much of other styles and other types of music. He was only, he was only interested in the classical music and doing things his way, basically. Okay, and now the things that can get ugly about Mr. Andres Segovia. Well, I mentioned in my last video that Segovia, got really upset and threw Michael Chaplin out of a class for not, using his fingerings. And I also heard Christopher Parkening talking about, about his teacher changing the fingers on the chaconne, the fingers Segovia had. And when he tried to play for Segovia, Christopher Parkin, Segovia was very upset, asked him to change the fingers back. And I don't think it's necessarily just about the fingerings. I think Segovia had probably a problem tolerating that somebody would disagree with him. It was very difficult for him. He saw himself as he was getting fame, and he had a problem. If you were in agreement with him, everything was fine. But if you disagree with him, it was very problematic. He didn't tolerate that. He had a hard time with people that disagreed with him for whatever reason, even if it was a good reason. Okay, the second thing on the ugly part of what we're talking about with Segovia, I heard that Segovia, he prohibited the musical barrios in his master classes. And if you think about it, Agustin Barrios was a great guitarist and he was a great composer. He's being recognized now by a lot of people. Agustin Barrios died in 1944. So I read that well into the 60s and 70s, I don't know beyond that, Segovia was still not letting people that were doing master classes with him to play any barrios. If you showed up with a barrios piece, you had to change it. And also he told some of his best students, Alirio Diaz, Abel Calavaro, that they could not play barrios in their concerts. So he was very adamant. So it looks like it was just more than, okay, he didn't like folk music because, he didn't fit with his rationale of bringing the guitar to the concert stage. It sounds like with Barrios, he was a little more. I heard he was also a little bit towards Lauro, but it definitely, I know that for Barrios, it looks like he tried to block Barrios' music from any of his classes and even his students. He wasn't, Alirio Diaz did record the music of Barrios, later, but again, this was well known about Segovia that he did not want, it's almost like he didn't want to give Barrios any credit. So that's a little bit ugly over there. And then my last thing, what I mentioned before, with I had a lot of teachers and a lot of teachers, they use different methods, and one of the methods, the whole maestro apprentice method, it's one that you go to a teacher and he has his own rationale for interpreting a piece this way, and then you go to another teacher and they could have a different sort of slant on what they teach on the same piece. So and it still doesn't let the students sort of learning. It's a process in which you make mistakes and then you kind of recover from those. And making mistakes is part of the process of learning. And Segovia had the the method of I'm gonna teach you. You have to follow my fingerings. You have to kind of do what I say, and as long as you do that, it's fine. But if you have other ideas of your own, then that's when Segovia said no. When John Williams tried to do other things with the guitar, he got heavily criticized by Segovia. So those are the again, Segovia was a human, of course, and so there's some good things about him, definitely. But there's also things that now in hindsight we can see that, okay, maybe he wasn't right in some things. And there's some definitely things like, trying to block the musical barrios and stuff. Those are the things that I'm calling that they were a little on the ugly side. Okay, well, give back and be blessed. Hope you enjoy the video. Please feel free to comment. Like I said, I've been learning a lot from people's comments, and looking forward to doing videos on Miguel Llobet and a video on Agustin Barrios. I just finished a book on Agustin Barrios. See you on the next one. Give back and be blessed. Bye.